Welcome to our presentation on professional ethics. All organizations have a set of standards that outline acceptable behavior that is reflective of the organization's core values. The profession of education is no different. In the field of education in Alabama, professional ethics is defined by the 9 standards that make up Alabama's Educator Code of Ethics. These standards outline acceptable behavior and conduct, as well as clearly defines unethical actions of professionals working in the field of education. Overall, the code protects the health, safety, and general welfare of students and educators. This presentation will focus on the 9 standards that make up Alabama Educator Code of Ethics. The National Education Association Code of Ethics and Alabama Ethics Commission are both great resources for educators that want to be more aware of the professional code of ethics that govern their profession. Remember, the ultimate goal of professional ethics in the field of education is to do no harm. Do no harm to your students, do no harm to your peers, do no harm to yourself, and do no harm to the prestigious profession of educating children.
The Alabama Educator Code of Ethics defines the professional behavior of educators in Alabama and serves as a guide to ethical conduct. The code protects the health, safety, and general welfare of students and educators. It outlines objective standards of conduct for professional educators and clearly defines actions of an unethical nature for which disciplinary sanctions are justified. Standard 1, professional conduct. An educator should demonstrate conduct that follows generally recognized professional standards. Ethical conduct includes, but is not limited to, encouraging and supporting colleagues in the development and maintenance of high standards, respecting fellow educators and participating in the development of a professional and supportive teaching environment, and engaging in a variety of individual and collaborative learning experiences essential to developing professionally in order to promote student learning. Unethical conduct includes, but is not limited to, harassment of colleagues, misuse or mismanagement of tests or test materials, inappropriate language on school grounds, physical altercations, and failure to provide appropriate supervision of students. Standard 2, trustworthiness. An educator should exemplify honesty and integrity in the course of professional practice. Ethical conduct includes properly representing facts concerning an educational matter in direct or indirect public expression, advocating for fair and equitable opportunities for all children, embodying for students the characteristics of intellectual honesty, diplomacy, tact, and fairness. Unethical conduct includes falsifying, misrepresenting, omitting, or erroneously reporting professional qualifications, criminal record, or employment history when applying for employment or certification, information submitted to federal, state, and/or other governmental agencies, information regarding the evaluation of students and/or personnel, reasons for absences or leaves, and information submitted in the course of an official inquiry or investigation. Standard 3, unlawful acts. An educator should abide by federal, state, and local laws and statutes. Unethical conduct includes but is not limited to the commission or conviction of a felony or of any crime involving moral turpitude. As used herein, conviction includes a finding or verdict of guilty or a plea of noto contendere, regardless of whether an appeal of the conviction has been sought, or a situation where first offender treatment without adjudication of guilt pursuant to the charge was granted. Standard 4, teacher-student relationship. An educator should always maintain a professional relationship with all students, both in and outside the classroom. Ethical conduct includes fulfilling the roles of trusted confidant, mentor, and advocate for students' growth, nurturing the intellectual, physical, emotional, social, and civic potential of all students, providing an environment that does not needlessly expose students to unnecessary embarrassment or disparagement, creating, supporting, and maintaining a challenging learning environment for all students. Unethical conduct includes committing any act of child abuse, including physical or verbal abuse, committing any act of cruelty to children, or any act of child endangerment, committing or soliciting any unlawful sexual act, engaging in harassing behavior on the basis of race, gender, national origin, religion, or disability, soliciting, encouraging, or consummating an inappropriate written, verbal, or physical relationship with a student, furnishing tobacco, alcohol, or illegal, unauthorized drugs to any student, or allowing a student to consume alcohol or illegal, unauthorized drugs.
Standard 5, alcohol, drug, and tobacco use or possession. An educator should refrain from the use of alcohol and/or tobacco during the course of professional practice and should never use illegal or unauthorized drugs. Ethical conduct includes, but is not limited to, the following: factually representing the dangers of alcohol, tobacco, and illegal drug use and abuse to students during the course of professional practice. Unethical conduct includes, but is not limited to, the following: being under the influence of, possessing, using, or consuming illegal or unauthorized drugs, being on school premises or at a school-related activity involving students while documented as being under the influence, possessing, or consuming alcoholic beverages or using tobacco. A school-related activity includes, but is not limited to, any activity that is sponsored by a school or a school system or any activity designed to enhance the school curriculum, such as club trips, etc., where students are involved. Standard 6, public funds or property. An educator entrusted with public funds and property should honor that trust with a high level of honesty, accuracy, and responsibility. Ethical conduct includes, but is not limited to, maximizing the positive effect of school funds through judicious use of said funds, modeling for students and colleagues the responsible use of public property. Unethical conduct includes, but is not limited to, the following: misusing public or school-related funds, failing to account for funds collected from students or parents, submitting fraudulent requests for reimbursement or expenses or for pay, commingling public or school-related funds with personal funds or checking accounts, using school property without the approval of the local Board of Education / governing body. Standard 7, remunerative conduct. Any educator should maintain integrity with students, colleagues, parents, patrons, or businesses where accepting gifts, gratuities, favors, or additional compensation. Ethical conduct includes, but is not limited to, ensuring that institutional privileges are not used for personal gain, ensuring that school policies or procedures are not impacted by gifts or gratuities from any person or organization. Unethical conduct includes, but is not limited to, soliciting students or parents or students to purchase equipment, supplies, or services from the educator or to participate in activities that financially benefit the educator unless approved by the local governing body, accepting gifts from vendors or potential vendors for personal use or gain where there appears to be a conflict of interest, tutoring students assigned to the educator for remuneration unless approved by the local Board of Education. Standard 8, maintenance of confidentiality. An educator should comply with state and federal laws and local school board policies relating to confidentiality of student and personnel records, standardized test material, and other information covered by confidentiality agreements. Ethical conduct includes, but is not limited to, the following: keeping in confidence information about students that has been obtained in the course of professional service unless disclosure serves professional purposes or is required by law. Maintaining diligently the security of standardized tests, supplies, and resources. Unethical conduct includes, but is not limited to, sharing confidential information concerning student academic and disciplinary records, health and medical information, family status/income, and assessment testing results unless disclosure is required or permitted by law. Violating confidentiality agreements related to the standardized testing, including copying or teaching identified test items, publishing or distributing test items or answers, discussing test items, and violating local school system or state directions for the use of test or test items, violating other confidentiality agreements required by the state or local policy. Standard 9, abandonment of contract. An educator should fulfill all of their terms and obligations detailed in the contract with the local Board of Education or educational agency for the duration of the contract. Unethical conduct includes, but is not limited to, the following: abandoning the contract for professional services without prior release from the contract by the employer, and refusing to perform services required by the contract. Keys for workplace excellence. K means to know yourself, means to actively assess our skills as communicators and then develop strategies to utilize our strengths and develop our weaknesses. E is evaluate the professional context, entails proactively addressing the needs of our audience and understanding the constraints of the communication and situation, as well as developing our skills for communicating with a variety of audiences across situations. Why? Your communication interaction requires us to monitor our own verbal and nonverbal cues in addition to the cues of the audience within each communication interaction. And finally, S, step back and reflect. It encourages us to examine the effectiveness of verbal and nonverbal messages we convey to others and the overall success of various communication interactions, and then take what we've learned and start the process again, developing the ability to continually adapt and improve. Respect. Respect means to look again. Self-respect is defined as knowing you're a unique contributor to the greater whole, and people with self-respect behave like I matter, you matter. So please keep that in mind as you respect the process as you're going through, respect those that you work with, respect yourself and your contribution to the overall program. This concludes our presentation on professional ethics.